Good morning all from Orlando. I say good morning, it's normally good evening. We're changing things up a little bit. Instead of recording these in the evening as I normally do and then releasing them in the morning, I'm now going to record and release the same morning. And the reason I'm going to do that is so that I can get the news out a little bit quicker than what I was doing before. I mentioned in the last video that I thought things were going to speed up a little bit in terms of getting the economy back on track, and I think that is going to happen. I've been bringing you these reports, if you want to call them reports, videos, for want of a better term, since March 29th. So if you've not been looking at them since then, you've missed quite a lot. In order not to miss out in the future, please subscribe, please hit that notification bell, and then you won't miss any more. And I'll be doing this right the way through till the parks open, and I'll be back in the parks and back in the resort. I'm still booked in to Port Orleans Riverside on June the 1st, and I'm still thinking that will go ahead, and I'm still thinking parks will open in early July. So as I say, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and you won't miss a thing. So coming up today, we're looking at US testing. What I should say is I'm going away a little bit now from looking at what's going on in the US as a whole and concentrating more on Florida. Now that President Trump has given his three-phase plan, and it's now been turned over to the governors and the city and county mayors, I'm going to concentrate now more on Orlando and more on Orange County in particular, where Disney World, Universal Orlando and SeaWorld are all situated. So coming up today, we've got US daily cases. I still think that's important to track just to see how we're getting on. Then Florida cases, daily cases, then a little news article on where we believe now that Florida's passed its peak, which is great news. Then we're going to look at Ron DeSantis' task force and the names for that task force, a couple of interesting ones there. We're going to look at the same, Mayor Demings, the Orange County Mayor, has done the same. He's got a task force, interesting names on that one as well. Then we're going to look at testing per capita, both in the US and in Florida, and how's that doing, because that's crucial. We're looking then at Mayor Demings' take on reopening the economy, and finally then I'm going to look at Shanghai, Disney Shanghai. How long has that been closed and how has that been reopened, and what are we going to take from that? And then we'll come back here and I'll give you my take on what that all means for when things are going to reopen. So join me with the news now, and then we'll come back and I'll give you my take. All right. Yesterday's case numbers for the US as a whole was 28,123, which is a little up on Sunday, but still going down overall since April the 4th, when it appears that was the peak of cases. So still relatively good news, but I'd like to see some more good news. In Florida, we had 586 cases yesterday, which is the best since March the 26th. That's 5 days of decline, and if we've got 14 days to get to phase 1 and that clock started ticking 5 days ago, we will be there on April 30th/May the 1st, which is when our stay-at-home order is due to end. New data from the University of Washington's Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation now says that we've passed the peak number of deaths per day in Florida, and they're now saying that that happened on April the 2nd. The graph appears to show that there will be 0 deaths in Florida by June the 1st, which is great if we're going to be reopening resorts by that date. As expected, Governor Ron DeSantis named his Florida task force yesterday, and among them are 2 very significant names, one being Josh D'Amaro, president of Walt Disney World Resort, and the other being John Sprules, the CEO of Universal Orlando Resort and the executive vice president for Universal Parks and Resorts. John Couris, the president and CEO of Tampa General Hospital, is also named in the 22, but I'm a little bit surprised that there's only one healthcare professional in that group. DeSantis gave the task force some grim news to start off, saying that over 40% of a lot of jobs in this region are at risk. So that puts the onus on them to get the economy moving sooner rather than later. This was tempered though by his remarks on returning to normal too quickly, and that people are afraid that there will be a spike if the economy does return too quickly without the proper measures in place to prevent it. Testing per capita in the US has been debated now for quite some time, but it does appear that the US is catching up now to Italy, which is the country with most tests per capita. around 1% of the population in the US has now been tested. While that appears to be good news for the US as a whole, maybe not so much for Florida. Although 1% of Florida's population has been tested, that still leaves us ranked 23rd nationally. So some of the smaller states must be testing more than 1% of their population. I have read that more testing facilities are being procured, so hopefully the number of tests per capita will rise in Florida very soon. Some news that I missed from April the 17th is that Jerry Demings also named his task force. Among them are Thomas Masloom, Senior Vice President of Walt Disney World Resorts and Transportation Operations, Rich Costales, Executive Vice President of Universal Orlando Resort Operations, and Brad Gilmore, Vice President of Operations at SeaWorld. So 3 very powerful individuals there sitting on Jerry Demings' shoulder to try and, I guess, make sure that he doesn't waste any time in reopening the resorts and the parks. We had some pretty bad weather here yesterday, and that spurred Jerry Demings into talking about hotels. He said, without the hotels we cannot adequately shelter people in case of a storm. So I think that is going to also play into what Jerry Demings does in terms of hotels being able to open. As a reminder of where Shanghai Disney sits right now, it closed down on January the 24th and has still not opened the park. But in plans for a phased reopening, it has reopened a limited number of shopping, dining and recreational experiences. So is that what's going to happen at Disney World? So that's the news. Not so good news on US cases. It seemed to go up a little bit yesterday, and that seems to be going along a bit of a bumpy road right now. Not sure why. Florida does seem to be dropping. Now, is that because it is getting better, or because we still don't have enough tests? And I don't know. I sincerely hope it's because it's getting better and not because we don't have enough tests. Because if we do reopen the economy and people are still sick, then we're going to spike again. Great news that we passed the peak. I really do hope that, again, that is true and that links directly with tests. The task force is due to report on Friday, so we'll see to Ron DeSantis, so we'll see what happens on that. Ditto Jerry Demings' task force, it's going to come back to him very, very soon. Now, the names on those task forces, very powerful people within the resort and park world. So they are going to be all over both Ron DeSantis and Jerry Demings. Very interesting, I think, that Jerry Demings isn't on Governor DeSantis' task force. I can't imagine why. You'd think that Orange County is absolutely key for Florida, yet it's not on the task force. I don't know whether that's political or what, but I'm very surprised. So we'll see how that goes. Jerry Demings' take on reopening the economy, he's already talking about hotels being a crucial thing for people to go to in an emergency, and we are going to be entering the hurricane season in June. That's pretty much around the corner. So June is when I think the resorts are going to open, which is bang in line with hurricane season. I didn't even think about that when I was spouting that on April the 6th, but yeah, definitely. So I think that'll play into hurricane season. It'll also play very well into getting things reopened. And then Disney Shanghai, it's taken a long time for the parks not to be reopened in Shanghai, but who knows if the reports coming out of China on their case numbers are correct or not. If it's so low now, why wouldn't they open Shanghai? I'm getting into conspiracy theories now, but I don't think we're going to be close to anywhere like the number of days that Disney Shanghai has been closed before we get our parks reopened. So I'm still sticking with June 1st resorts, July 1st at least one park for each of the major park owners, and then I think we're going to go from there in terms of getting everything opened. Whether it's going to be all resorts or some resorts on June 1st, I don't know. Again, that depends somewhat on getting people back to work. I think we're going to, the clock must be ticking now on getting down to phase 1 for Florida. So that means early May for reopening some stuff. I think we're going to start with retail stores, and it's going to be gradual from there. People are going to get them back to work in stores, and then it's going to be hotels. But who's going to come to the hotels? I'm working on a couple of hotels as part of my day job, and there's all sorts of discussion about, is anybody going to come? When are we going to get back to some kind of normality? And I'm not going to talk about that because I'll be breaking confidentiality, but it's still up in the air. A lot of it's still up in the air. Who's going to come to Disney World? Whoops. Who's going to come to Disney World? Who's going to go to Universal Orlando and stay there while there's no parks there? I do think a lot of people will, and I do think it's going to be phased, and I do think that it's going to be locals first, then domestic flights, and then eventually it's going to be international flights. And I still don't think those international flights are going to happen until August, but things are moving very quickly. So I'll be keeping a close eye on that. So that's it for today. Thanks for tuning in, and I may see you tomorrow morning, I may see you the morning after that. Take care, stay safe, see you then. Cheers, bye bye.